Let us start off. UFC, big event this weekend. Talking with DaveBets here. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hello.
There you go,
Before
looking
we
very
start, I just want
suave.
everybody to take a guess at who you think I'm impersonating today.
Well, Cuppa.
Yeah, of course.
Well, he's on. I know he's on next with his shades. You know, I met him when we did the IFBC in Las Vegas, and every time I'd met him was with his shades on. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to recognize you without your sunglasses on. But yes, good impression of him.
I wish I had as much sun as he does.
I bet, being in England. How's the weather doing?
Do you know what? I can't actually complain because it has been between 19 and 24 degrees for the past week.
Ooh.
But the clouds don't really go well with the sun. It just makes it muggy and yeah. So
well,
if the clouds can go, it'll be fine. But yeah, we're stuck with very hot weather, but not much sun.
Oh, but at least it's hot though. It's always the warm.
Yeah,
We get lots of clouds here in Costa Rica, actually, in San Jose, but and it makes it very humid. So
yeah.
I know what you mean about that. I know what you mean about the clouds. Yes. All right. Let us commence. UFC. So obviously the big fight here. Fight night 153. Going to start with your punching parlay. You're on episode 2. Episode 2 is struggling a bit. Episode 1 was a clean sheet. You went 10-0. It's like you changed episode and something happens, and now I did find you're doing high odds. Did you change tactic for episode 2?
Nope. There's never. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. There is no tactic to it. I come into the punching parlay with my mind open. I watch all the fights, all the tape study, and then I just basically make my mind up on who I think has the biggest chance of winning.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might be only able to find 2 fighters, but then sometimes I might find 3 fighters like I have on this week's episode. And if I feel strong on them, I'm going to put them in the parlay. And that's just it, because that's what's always worked for me. I think I may have jinxed myself by turning it into season 1 and 2 and doing the graphics and stuff like that, being all fancy with it. But nothing has changed. I sit there, I spend hours watching fights, hours doing research, and I just pick who I genuinely think is gonna win, like my top fighters who I think are gonna win.
Well,
most of the time it does get matched with the bookmakers' odds, and the odds can be low. But this week we have some. In my opinion, there's some decent odds this week, so that's why the odds on this week's episode are higher than they have been in the past.
Yeah, because I think it's about like 4.6 or somewhere around there, isn't it? So is it over odds of 4? And normally you were giving odds of around 2. Could that be it? Or you're just basically saying you don't even look at the odds, you do your homework, and then obviously you see what is presented? Because that's kind of how I do when I'm capping like football. I choose the bet, and then I go and find out, and then hope obviously that it's a good price, and then I take it from there. If it's not, I look for something else or combine it with something. So that's generally, I suppose, it's maybe similar how you cap UFC.
Yeah. This week. The odds this week, the odds have been the highest that I've ever gave out. But in season 1, there was, I think there was a couple of episodes where odds were either 3 or above, and they were the ones where I'd added 3 fighters, if my memory holds correct. But there's no secret to it. There's no master plan. We went 10-0 because I just did my research, and that's how the fights panned out. But it doesn't always go the way that my opinion goes. So you can't be perfect.
I know. Wouldn't it be great if it did go? We'd all be millionaires right now, Dave.
Yeah, Alex had me for saying I was being a bit too greedy. He might be right, but when these cash, people will be loving it again, I'm sure, because to be honest, before I used to take this professionally and seriously, I used to do parlays with 7 or 8 fights, and I'd land them quite regular. And I still have all these old tickets. So if anyone wants to call me up on it, I've got all my old tickets from 2013, 2014, where I've made hundreds, thousands of pounds just picking 7 or 8 fights in my parlays, doing perfectly fine. So when some people may get scared, you've got 3 legs in this parlay, but I don't get scared. No, I don't get scared. I know full well that no matter how much I lose, I will always make it back. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
Right, but then that's to do as well with what we were talking about, obviously, with betting with your bankroll, unit bettings, and every unit is different depending on the size of your bankroll. So if you do it that way, then you shouldn't be losing. Remember, everybody, bet responsibly. That is what we promote here at Sports Bet Daily. Well, listen, enough about all of this. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to the bets that we're so eagerly excited to hear about. So, punching parlay. Do you want to start with what do you want to start with? Punching parlay. What are you looking at?
Yeah, why not? We got 3 people on the punching parlay. The first, I'll start with the undercards first. The undercard, we've got Darko Stosic versus Devin Clark, and I don't feel like Devin Clark is gonna bring it how a lot of people seem to think he will, and the odds right now are 1.95. So if you're not even following the punch and parlay and you're just interested in making a bit of money, it might be worth just placing these as singles if you really want to, because the odds are good enough to do that. I'm not saying that Devin is not a slouch by no means. I think he's not going to come out of this fight on top. This fight is, one guy used to fight at heavyweight and the other guy used to fight at middleweight. Although they are the same in height, just the size alone is going to be apparent in this fight. And Devin's striking, in my opinion, is not on the level. It's not on the level. Devin doesn't have the same level of striking. There is a good chance he might implement a wrestling game plan into this fight, but with Darko, he has judo, which he doesn't use that much, and we don't see all that often. But I think it's just going to give him enough to be able to defend any danger from the takedown. And yeah, I think Darko might actually finish this fight and knock Devin out.
All right. So
in the second fight, we have Sung Bin Jo versus Daniel Tamor. Now, people might have me up on this because usually I'm talking about don't back a fighter who is making his debut in the UFC because the odds are always against them. But I have to make an exception here. Daniel Tamor is just not. I don't think he's UFC caliber. I don't think he should be in the UFC. And the fighter who is fighting is 5'11", and he is 5'5". And the featherweights that have that kind of freakish size tend to do well, very well. Automatically, this guy has got the advantage before the fight started. He's got the reach, he's got the height. There's not much tape to watch on Sung Bin Jo because obviously he is a debuting fighter. He fights out of Korea. It's not like he's local or anything like that. So, the tape that I've seen from him, the striking looks crisp. So I did a bit more research into his background. And he actually trains with a UFC fighter, the Korean Zombie. And it's those types of trainers who you want to be training with sorry about that's my phone going off, let me mute that.
Sounds like your doorbell.
He's the type of fighter that you want to be training with when you come into the UFC, because the Korean Zombie, he's a legend in the UFC, and he's an awesome striker. So I can see why Sung Bin has this crisp striking game. He's a young lad, but I think they've gifted him Daniel Tamor. The only thing going against him is going to be Daniel Tamor is from Sweden, and that's where the event's being held. and Daniel Tamor is fighting for his job. So there are two risk factors there, but I just don't think he's not going to have enough. He's not going to have enough to beat this size. I don't think. I'm real big on size, and yeah, 5'5" versus 5'11". There's not much. I can't see what Daniel Tamor is going to bring to Sung Bin that's going to cause him any trouble, to be honest.
All right, so you're going for Sun Bin Jo, 1.7. They do say size matters, Dave, so I'm sure you're onto something there. And the final one there of your punching parlay, what are you going for?
Alexander Rakic versus a guy I actually like and I respect hugely, Jimmy Manuwa. Great English style fighter, great boxer. Only problem is he's 39 years old now. He's coming off some devastating knockouts. The guy, it's kind of worrying when a guy is getting knocked out and then he's fighting 5 months later. I know the doctors have to clear it and they're professionals, but we don't know. We don't know because it's untested. We don't know what this type of damage is doing long term to these martial artists. And when you're getting knocked out at that age, personally, it's a cause for concern. In his past 3 fights, he has lost all of them. The first time round was against Volkan Oezdemir, who's actually fighting tomorrow as well. He got knocked out by him back at UFC 214, Cormier versus Jones in 2017. Then he came back again in 2018 and he lost the decision to a guy called Jan Blachowicz. And by the way, the fighters that I'm talking about, they're not no slouches. He is losing to the creme de la creme of the division. But now he's coming up against a young, fresh, once again, 6'5" fighter. And I think Jimmy's coming in at around 6 foot. It's not that he's small, but Alexander's definitely going to have the reach. He's going to have the size advantage. He's on a 10-fight win streak. He's had 3 fights in the UFC. He's won all of them. In his previous fight, he knocked out Devin Clark in the first round. And he's just a great prospect for Austria. And Austria don't have many fighters, but I think this guy is going to be the guy flying the flag for them. Yeah. And Timing is everything, in my opinion, and I think this is a great time for Alexander to come in and give us another knockout.
Yeah, all right. Now, Ken Peacock says the overseas UFC cards are dodgy because of the jet lag and the judges. What would you say about that? Because jet lag has certainly got to be a factor.
Jet lag, but we have to take into consideration that the majority of the fighters on the card are from Europe, so they're not traveling that far, and the hours, the difference in the time zone is not that much. So maximum difference in time zone maybe 3-4 hours depending on where you're coming from. As far as I can remember, I'm pretty sure there's only 2 or 3 fighters outside of Europe that are on this card, maybe 4. But yeah, he's correct. Whoever said that in the comment, they are correct. Jet lag is a thing. It can affect certain fighters, but then you have other fighters that are undefeated internationally. So yeah, I think it's all just down to the fighter, and every fighter is different. Everybody has a different mechanism. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's got a different body, so yeah, it's hard to pinpoint a fighter and say he's gonna have jet lag, or he's not gonna. Well,
you might be able to tell from where they're coming from. You'd be like, the one round down the road, obviously not gonna have jet lag, and then the one that's like from 12 hours away, you're like, I think you're gonna have a little bit of jet lag. It's only natural. Listen, we've got it. We're time is running away with us. Nolly Knowles came on and says, I've never bet UFC and I'm here to learn. Well, I tell you what, you are learning from one of the best here. DaveBets is an amazing UFC and MMA tipster here. So we've just been discussing his punching parlay. All articles and tips are over at oddsmarket.com. So you guys must go and check it out. I'll send the link to the UFC page. But to recap, you are going for Rakic at 1.44, Sing Bin Jo at 1.7. So you could play that as a single bet, like Dave said, and you're going for Stojic at 1.95, Darko Stojic there, and that is that's a three-team parlay, total odds of 4.81. We didn't really get to talk about the main event here. Do you have any, very, very quickly, do you have any plays, leans? What are you expecting?
I have been handicapping this card. This is probably I'm going to have a lot of plays on this card, to be honest. Main event, Gus all day. There's no... Anthony Smith has a puncher's chance. That's all he has. Alexander Gustafsson has lost to the two best fighters that the UFC has ever seen, in my opinion. That's John Jones and Daniel Cormier. They're the two best fighters that the UFC has ever seen. He's only lost to them. He doesn't have a lot of, he's not fighting for much, but he's in his hometown and his level's above Anthony Smith. Anybody that disagrees is silly. We'll see that tomorrow. If Anthony Smith wins, I'll eat my words, but I'm telling you now, if Anthony Smith wins, it will be a puncher's chance, and that's it. Dogs in the odds. If you want dogs in the odds quickly, Frank Camacho and Makwan Amirkhani. They're my two dogs in the odds picks as well. You can get one of them at evens 2.00, and I think Frank Camacho now is at 1.91. Not huge underdog odds, but those are the guys that I like.
Yeah, all right, great stuff. Thanks a lot, Dave Betts. And like I said, Dave has got his Dogs in the Odds article, his Punching Parlay article, and two articles as well from Jason at the Sports Keg over at oddsmarket.com on the fighting page. All right, I'm going to have to say goodbye, Dave. I think we'll be back next week.